So welcome everyone to the fifth and final session of Getting Started with Splunk mini-series. We're very happy to have you here today. Before we get started, let's get some legal stuff out of the way. This presentation may contain forward-looking statements regarding Splunk. These statements do not guarantee anything in the future, and you should not make financial decisions based off of those statements made today. Always go based off of what is currently available. Now, a quick blurb about myself. I'm Liam Walther, your presenter for today. I've been with Splunk for just shy of 3 years, and my fun fact is that I have 3 guinea pigs named Grog, Will, and Nico, who are the love of my life. And I absolutely play favorites with them because Will lets me pet him the most, so he is the favorite. But enough about me, let's dive into the content. Since this is the last of 5 sessions in the series, I want to take a minute to go over what each session was about. We've learned about the importance of machine data, the Splunk platform, and an introduction to how SPL works. Then last week, we learned about the Splunk knowledge objects. And this week, we'll be learning all about some of the most popular SPL commands, and finally going over some resources to help aid you in your Splunk journey. So today, we're going to have a SPL refresher, then we're going to dive into stats, timechart, and the eval command. And then we'll conclude with some resources to help you out as you continue your journey. As we already discussed in session 3, the Splunk search processing language, or as we usually call it SPL, allows us to search, correlate, analyze, and visualize our data. The SPL syntax on the slide is shown from left to right, and we always want to start our queries off with some basic terms to help us narrow down our data set that we're working with. We then can use pipe characters, which takes the results from our previous sections in our query, so we can use commands and functions to manipulate and organize the data. In other words, SPL works from the top down. You always want to define what and where you're searching for in your first line, and then subsequent lines will most likely have transforming commands to help manipulate your data. So this example on the screen, we're looking at events where the action equals purchase, then piping that into the stats command, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But we'll be counting the returned events by status code. And finally, we are renaming our count field to number of events, making it easier for the layperson to understand our table. So the first of the 2 commands that we're going to discuss are some very useful ones to help out with statistics. And the first one we're going to start off with is the stats command. So this calculates aggregate statistics such as average, count, and sum over the results set. The stats command is very similar to SQL aggregation if you have experience with that, in that it uses various functions and its search syntax to calculate statistical results. And with stats, we'll have an output of a results table. And stats can support multiple functions, while timechart, the other one we're going to talk about on this slide, cannot. And you can also group more than 2 fields together with stats. So let's look at our search string here. We have a stats command with a stats function. This could be the sum, the average, or the count, just to name a few, which will do the aggregate over a certain field. And this field can contain a wildcard in them as well. Then we have the by clause, where we have the ability to group 2 or more fields together. And here on our example on the screen, on the left-hand side, we got a search where we're finding the events from our web server, or source type equals access combined. And then we'll calculate the number of distinct values for client IP for every status using the stats command with the distinct count function. Something to note about the stats command is that if it's used without a by clause, only 1 row will be returned, representing an aggregation over the entire incoming result set. But if a by clause is used, 1 row will be returned for each distinct value specified in that by clause. So moving on to the timechart command. Timechart creates a time series chart with a corresponding table of statistics. And a timechart is a statistical aggregation applied to a field to produce a chart that always uses time as the x-axis. And you can specify a split by field, where each distinct value of that split by field becomes a series in the chart. And you can use an eval expression, which we'll be talking about on the next slide, with timechart. And the split by clause is required if you use that eval expression. And you can specify the series filtering by using limit and ag options. However, these options will be ignored if you already specified with an explicit where clause. And a where clause specifies the criteria for including particular data series in a field given by that by clause. The most common use for this option would be to look for like spikes in your data rather than an overall massive distribution in a series selection. And we've actually already seen timechart in action in our last 3 searches that we've built, so you may have already figured out what it does before this slide. Now, in the chat, we'll be sending 2 links for documentation on these stats in timechart command for you all to reference. The third command we'll be talking about is eval. And the first thing you need to know about eval is that it's going to be the most widely used command in your day-to-day searching with Splunk. This command calculates an expression and puts the resulting value into the search results field. If a field name that you specify does not match a field in the output, a new field is added to your search results. But if a field name that you specify already matches one that already exists within your search results, the results of this eval expression overwrite what's within that field value. But regardless of whether you're creating a new field or overwriting an existing field, you're not modifying the underlying data in any way. So this means that nothing is written to disk with the eval command or is kept after the lifetime of the search that it's used in. There will be no index data that's modified or added. Eval only exists for the duration of your search. And the eval command evaluates mathematical, string, and Boolean expressions. And I find that looking at the difference between the stats and eval helps me understand their application. So the stats command calculates statistics based off of the fields in your events, while the eval command creates a new field in your events by using existing fields and arbitrary expressions. We're going to be posting another link into the chat where you can learn more about eval. So this slide just takes a few examples of looking at eval in practical applications, such as using eval with the if-else condition. So if status equals 200, then return error equals okay. Otherwise, return error equals problem. You can use eval with the case function. And the case function has 2 different ways you can use it, for example. One is to create categories, and the other is to create a custom sorting order. In this example, we're looking at different status codes and defining what they mean. 404 is not found, 503 is service unavailable, and 200 means A-OK. So this is a great function to assign qualitative categories to quantitative numbers. You can also use eval to provide mathematical operations. So we're taking distance divided by time and then rounding it to 2 decimal places. Or to perform operations like with coalesce, which takes 1 or more values and returns the first value from number or subscriber number, and then returns that as a phone number. So to wrap it up here with eval, just remember there are a multitude of things that can be done with it, and it's an incredibly versatile command for performing calculations and operations on data. In this last section, let's go over some available resources to y'all as you continue your Splunk journey. So starting off, we have the amazing Splunk community. As you've probably heard a couple of times already, Splunk has a very active, passionate, and vibrant user community with numerous resources to help you use, implement, or learn more about Splunk. You can head over to the Splunk community portal to ask questions on Splunk Answers, engage with user groups, and make suggestions about product changes at Splunk Ideas. We host many events globally throughout the year, including our annual user conference, .conf. And to those who are able to make it to .conf 24 this summer, we'll have a chance to attend hundreds of on-demand sessions, product update announcements, workshops to learn new Splunk skills, and networking events where you can meet other like-minded Splunkers. And if you go to Conf, you might even see me presenting again on our premium product ITSI, so feel free to come over and say hi. We also host virtual public workshops throughout the year covering a variety of Splunk topics. These workshops are free to attend, and anyone who wishes to register can find out more information on our upcoming events by going to splunk.com/events. If you're looking for a little self-paced learning or want to deep dive into a topic, head over to Splunk Docs for product references, search commands, procedures, guides, and even helpful search and dashboard studio tutorials. Looking to get a little bit more advanced? Well, then check out Splunk Lantern portal for use case library, step-by-step procedures, and more resources to help you get the most out of your Splunk deployment. Of course, if you're a keen developer and want to develop for or integrate with Splunk, head over to our developer portal where you can find code examples, tutorials, our API reference, and our developer guides. If you want to share your custom developed apps with the world or check out what's already out there, head over to Splunk Base. There are over 3,100 available apps and add-ons, most of them being free. I think there's about 7 that are premium. So you can leverage work shared by others, including Splunk, our partners, and the user community. For those of you who are interested in more formal Splunk education or are looking to pursue Splunk certifications, should head over to the training and certification page on the Splunk website, where you can find a wealth of information on online classes, with new courses being added regularly. Learning and certification tracks are being set up for different roles, including user, power user, admin, architect, and developer. And our single subject e-learning courses are a great way for new Splunk users to learn the fundamentals of Splunk and will help reinforce what you've learned in this workshop, as well as going deeper on some of the commands. And you can filter by free courses to see our available free education as well. And with that, that concludes our session and our mini series end. Thank you for joining our series for getting started on your Splunk journey.